Yeah, thanks Rakesh, thanks Priyanka, and thanks Shashank. So yeah, I'm Naman and I've been associated with Canvas from quite some time. So initially we will just I'll just give a walkthrough of what all topics we are going to cover. Okay, and then we will proceed with the hands-on sessions and the explanation and things like that. So yeah, for the Azure API management, today we will have a .NET Core web application, okay, all set in our GitHub, and we will pull up make use of the GitHub actions to first publish the .NET Core application into an Azure App Service, and then using the Open API specifications, we will be importing the Swagger JSON from Azure App Service to the Azure API management. Okay. Also during the CI/CD, two more things which we have tried covering is all the policies. Most of the widely used policies which we are planning to update using the CI/CD itself, and also the revisions. So we will also be, briefing on how important role the revisions and the versions and things like that play when it comes to, not disturbing the production environments and making things very smooth for the developers as well as for the DevOps. Okay. So once that is done, we will head towards the products. Okay. So the concept on which the products and then the APIs, then the operations work, what are the different scopes of policies which we can apply to products, APIs, and operations. Okay. And then, yeah, obviously versions and revisions. Then moving ahead, we will also talk in detail about the policies which we can, make use of for different scopes. So some of the policies which we will be covering is essentially caching, the mock responses with a typical use case wherein which we encounter a lot in the industry. Apart from that, the throttling limits. In terms of authorization, we will focus on the access restriction policies of checking the headers for authentication. And also, we will be drilling down a bit more and going to the transformation policies. For example, dynamically transforming the API request and response by removing the sensitive and confidential information by maybe say masking URLs or the removing headers and things like that. Okay, once the policies are done, we will also head over to developer portal. We will see how we can we can associate our APIs with a product, then publish that product in the developer portal. How to using RBAC distinguish for the users who are guests and who are developers and who are admins, what kind of accesses who will have, and how to manage those accesses by enabling the subscriptions and enabling the permissions for requesting the access and things like that, those facilities. Also, we will look at inside the product scope how we can put uniform policies all across the API inside a product. Then just a very brief, because this one can be drilled down to a larger extent. So we will, in the interest of time, we will just confine it to an overview of how we can customize the developer portal. So for our clients. Next, we will also lastly cover the monitoring part, wherein we will try to, understand what the application insights, what's the role of application insights when it comes to monitoring, how handy it is and how easy it is to integrate an application insight and then monitor our APIs. We will also try to see how we can leverage the analytics and logs functionality of the Azure resources, be it any, either the web service, APIM, whatever. So how we can exploit those and understand better our API performances and things like that. We will also just brief the team about how we can club all the all the analytics that we need into a workbook. And then from there we can the queries which we write in our logs or analytics workspace, how to just put a simple alert and see how it can be done so that in time actions can be taken. Okay. So apart from this, there are few more things which, if time permits, we are planning to cover from the infra side. For example, let's say that the team wants to not only build APIs for the clients, but also for some sort of an internal automation. So therein, what we will try to focus on is how we could, confine the internal APIs to a virtual network and see how we can protect them. So this is something which, if time permits, we will be covering. But however, let's see how it goes. So with this sort of an overview, I would now request Suman to go ahead and start with the CI/CD. And once again, thanks everyone for joining. And if you have any issues or face anything, please feel free to hit me up in the chat window. Okay. So yeah, thank you. Suman, over to you.
Thank you, Naman. Thank you, Shashank, and thanks. So I am Suman Sarav, and I have been associated with Canvas from time. So uh, today I will show you how the GitHub workflows works and how to create a CI/CD from scratch. So we will be creating a CI/CD, and in that I will be covering topics like how to use the secrets, how to use the pipeline variables, then how to will see a little bit of what are the environments, and then we'll have a multi-stage builds in which builds will be having build and deployment in different runners and different jobs. And also we'll see like how we are going to upload that our created artifacts and downloaded artifacts and use them for our deployments. So uh, let's start. I'll be sharing my screen. So let me uh, share my screen now. Let me know when my screen is visible.
It's visible.
Okay. So this is our .NET application, which we will deploy in our app service, and in that app service we will use we will configure the APIM service. Okay. So in this in this artifact, I will first open the portal and show how the app service looks like. One second. So this is the app service, and like we will not be deploying the app service, as you can easily deploy the app service from the GUI of the Azure, and also using the CLI commands. So this is one of the app service which we have already been deployed, and this is the app service which we will be using for our deployment purpose. So first, the thing is that how our GitHub will communicate with our Azure portal app service. So here, first the thing is how our Git action will authenticate. So we have something called service principal in Azure. I hope like most of you will be already using that. So first we have to create a service principal. I'll show you. So in Active Directory, in app registration, we have to register one application. So we have been already created an app service. So you can create a new registration using this line. Currently I don't have access of that, so that's okay. So we just have to create a app registration and generate one secret. So from that API, that service principal, we will get three things that we will use for authentication. First one is the client ID, then client secrets, and the last one will be uh, our tenant ID. And these three information are required for us to authenticate. The second method, like from which we will be using to authenticate our app service, is that the publish profile. So if I go to any of the app service, like this one, so we have something called get published profile. So if we click on this, we'll get one file, and we like I open this. I'll show you what is inside this. So inside this, we have all the parameters that are required to authenticate. And this is the secret and very like this, we should not share this with anyone. And also in the Git workflow, we'll save this as a secret, and it won't be like we will not be able to update it or edit it. Yeah, once it is it is created, it is created. We can create another secret or override this, but we cannot view this after creating this. So let's head to the GitHub. So I have so this is my repository. I'll bring it in some of the 1 second. Okay. So this is the where we will be creating our workflow. So this is the clean repository. So to get started with the workflow, first we have to click on the actions and we have to create one workflow. So here we have one option to create a new workflow. So if I click on this, I'll get some of the predefined templates for which is created by GitHub, and or else we can start with scratch. So skip this and start up with the workflow. Okay. So these are the things which we get already entered in the workflow. So first is the name of the workflow. So I'll just name it so we will be deploying one .NET Swagger applications. I just named it this. And then is the on. So this is the event part. So what happens in the in GitHub actions? First we have something called events. I'll just choose my pen. So we have something called events. So events will trigger the workflow, and workflow uses actions to perform the tasks. Okay. So what are the events? It can be a push in the repository, or a pull request, or something like we want to trigger it manually. We can set that also. So and we'll have the workflow. What is workflow? What workflow is a YAML file which have the actions. So what are actions? Okay, so in this we can see that these are the steps. So these are each and one actions. So we'll start with a simple CI first and show you how does this work. Okay, I'll just edit this and I'll just remove it. And first we'll just add a manual trigger here, so like it doesn't get auto run every time. So I'll just use this workflow. And in this I'll just add one parameter which I will be using to change the log level. So this is one of the variable, and I'll make it some description of it. Let's say log level. And
But no, it's okay.
I think hello.
Hey, hi team.
No,
I,
sorry, you can continue. You just joined. You can continue.
okay, thank you. I'll make it required. Let's say the default value will be warning. So I'll be only getting the warning in the logs. So this is the one of the CI. I'll just run it and show you. So it doesn't get auto triggered as we have set it to a manual. I'll just refresh this. As you can see, this whole task has been run, all actions, and we are getting this. We are getting all the echo part that which we have been setting. So after this, what we will do, we'll see how to do a multi-stage build in this. So what I will do, we have multiple jobs in this. So how this will be handled is that in the actions, the action part we have something called as jobs. So jobs, in the jobs we have multiple jobs. We can have single job also. We'll have single or multiple jobs. And inside that jobs we'll have our actions. Okay. So this like we can create a job for the build task, maybe, and for the deployment part. So same as this, I'll just create two jobs. One is the build, and I'll just copy it. To deploy, and I'll just remove one action is actually enough to show you. I'll just copy this. Okay. One thing I'll tell you just after this comment. I'll show you something. There's something to be that worth noticing. Just run it. Okay. So as you can see that both have been run concurrently. So we don't want this. First our build process to be completed, and then we want our deployment to be started. So there's one more parameter that is needed to be added, is that in this build task we have to add one more parameter, that is needs. And we have to add the name of the job. Okay, sorry. Let's build. Now if I commit and go to actions, and one second, some indentation error, maybe I'll check it. Okay. These are the like common mistake. Okay, so I have missed one colon here. Everything's look fine. So now these are related. When the build will be completed, then the deployment will start.
So team, the advantage of this, separating the stages build and deployment is sometimes to, we try to, whatever code we have in our GitHub, we try to build it in time and we only release or deploy once it is needed when we send the outage or something like that. So this is a very good way of doing it. We can always separate it in stages, do half of the work prior, and then only when it is needed, we just deploy that build. So yeah, Suman, please go ahead.
Okay. So we can have multiple environments here also. Like if we want to we want to deploy the same build in different environment, we'll have multiple stages of deploy to different environment. Let's say deploy to QA first and then deploy to our production. So in that way, we can also set different parameter for the different variables to use in the particular stages. Okay. So now we'll set the authentication for our Azure App Service. So here, if I go to environments, secrets, we'll see already I have created one secret which is named by Azure Web App Published profile. In this profile, I have pasted this entire content of the get published file. So this is the secret which we will use to authenticate and deploy the app service. Okay, so I'll just go to action and let's start with our actual workflow. If I go ahead here and edit this. Okay, so I'll remove the part which is not needed. Okay, so this is the step which is required. So I won't be removing this. This is the step which copies our entire repository to the runner. So what are runners? Runners are like what we have slaves in Jenkins and agents in Azure DevOps, on which our codes will be running. All these workflows are executed on the runners. So we will have our .NET application which we want to deploy. So first we have to understand what is the manual process to deploy the our web app. So in this we'll have we have certain steps which I'll just note down somewhere. Note that. So the first thing is that we want to check out. Second thing is for the .NET application, we have a process to publish the .NET application, and in which we have a .NET restore command and .NET publish command. So we'll just same as like in our node applications, we'll have npm ci, npm run, and npm test. So second step will be .NET restore. Then third, what we have is .NET build. And in the fourth step, we will have .NET test, and then we will publish the artifact. So these are the steps which we will include in the CI part. We'll start one by one. So first thing, we have set the workflow to be run only on our manual trigger. Add one step. Uh, so we also have to like first check if our .NET thing, .NET like environment is set up properly. So I'll just set up .NET. I'll just search in the marketplace, and we have one actions. So I'll just copy paste this. This is optional. So I'll also remove these two. I'll just mention my .NET version, which is 3.1.10. So this will ensure that everything is already set up in the runner, like installation of the SDK, the paths and everything. It will make sure that everything is okay. So next the thing is I'll set up some of the environment variables which we will be using in our pipeline. So I'll just start with setting up the environment variables. So first one is for web app, and let's name this ASP.NET Swagger. And next one, let's say Azure web app package path. This is the location where we will be publishing our .NET build. So, and also I'll set up some of the default parameters. So let's say I want like my default shell will be dash default working directory. It will pick up the part from inside this .NET Swagger, and inside that my project where we have our uh, so first task is build. I'll just add a name for this. Building .NET project. And it will be running on latest version of Ubuntu, and these are the steps required. So the checkout step, our setting up, we already have two of our actions. So next is I'll just show the packages. Export the command is .NET. I'll comment out this path currently, and let's test this. Everything looks fine. Okay. So it is very essential to know all the like manual steps first, like to start with the automation. So I just triggered it. Let's see what happens. Okay, so we see that restore is completed. So next step is that we'll just replace this .NET command with the Okay. Check out for this one. .NET system. Next step is to .NET build. To .NET build, we have command as .NET build and provide one configuration, and we'll release it. And we don't want restore because we already have created we have already run the restore. So in this part, we don't want the restore step to be repeated. So just edit this and add one more step here. Name it .NET just run the command. You can also like add everything in just one go, but that is not like advised because in each of the step, if something is failing, the whole step will be failed and will not like this is the proper way to do it, like each command in one actions. So now let's commit this and see the .NET build is done. I'll just trigger it once again. I'll select our workflow runbook and let's try debug now. This will pass the login.
So team, meanwhile, whatever Suman has been showing in the notepad, right? The steps to publish the application. So that essentially like doesn't vary much. For example, if we have a Node application, there will be npm install and npm maybe npm start or something. So those steps we can Google and find out. But for any kind of application, right, we will mostly have 3 or 4 steps which we can just perform here by installing the right SDK. Like we needed .NET, so we are just setting up .NET in our runner. We can do that for Node also.
So I've got one error. I'll just check it what it is. It says unknown switch. Okay, misspelled. Okay, so what I'll do is just copy my previous command and check it some difference. See no difference here. I'll just check this. Action. I'll select the workflow and just run it. Okay. So now we have our .NET build command also running successfully. Then what I will do, I'll just add my next step. So I'll check what is my next step. It is .NET test. So in this step, what I'll do, I'll just write my test command, which is .NET test. And in this step, we don't want a build. So I'll just mention no build. With this, and add one more action in my workflow. This .NET test command test hyphen no hyphen then. I'll just commit the changes and let's run this again. So this is done, setup, restore, build, and then test is also completed. So now we have everything completed from the .NET side. Now what we need is that we need to publish our application. So for this, we'll run the .NET publish command. So .NET publish, and I'll copy this no configuration, and we also don't want any build. Then we want our output to be set in the package path. So you see, if I go to my action, we have defined one variable which is Azure Web App package path. In this variable, we want our package to be published. So I'll just paste this variable name, and to use this variable, I'll just format it. So this is same as like we use in our Jinja. So this is the command. So I'll just, and also we have to tell it is from our environment. Create now workflow. So I'll just edit this and create next action. Let's name it publish. Take this command and publish our. Okay, let's add one more ls command to just be there. This is just to show you where uh, where the package is published. I'll just run up lsr here. And let's again trigger the build. The resource is completed, build. Okay, so we have gone one error in .NET publish. Configuration, configuration. Okay. Maybe some typo from my side. .NET publish configuration.
There is a T missing, Suman.
Okay, sorry. Okay, let's comment this, and I'll just rerun this action workflow again. Restore .NET build .NET test, and then publish. So everything is completed. I'll just show you the folder structure. So these are our environment variables. So let's check what we have. Okay, we have our folder web package, and let's check what is inside this. So these are the artifacts. So this we will use to deploy the our application in our app service. Okay. So let's upload this to GitHub. So I'll go again and edit this thing, our workflow, and what we need is, okay, let's remove this. So we need to upload our artifact. So this is the action which we need. I'll just copy it and paste it. So we don't need this and all, I guess. Okay, sorry, I'll just align it and pass one name. So let's say app, and we want to publish our GitHub workspace. So why I am publishing the entire workspace is that we also have we also will be showing the APIM and the caching policy one. So I am publishing our entire workspace there. Or else like we can also choose the path and publish only the our artifact directory, which is web app. Okay, so I'll just use one of the environment variables, GitHub dot workspace. So this is fine, I guess. I'll just commit and let's see what happens. Okay, now I'll just run the workflow. Let's minimize this. This is done. Restore is done. Build .NET test, and now we are uploading our artifact. Okay, so upload is done. So now we are done with our CI part, and we can start the CD part. So this is the complete job, and now we will create another job which we will naming deploy, and we'll have all the CD part. In that CD part only we will add the policies to it, and we'll import the open API spec specification of our Swagger to the API. So let's start the CD part now. So this everything is done. I'll just increment everything here. This is correct, and this is correct. Okay, so first thing what we don't need our repository in this step. So I'll just download our artifact. Let's download a build artifact task. I'll just copy it, and it's ready to use here. Just rename it. Download artifact. And the name is, I'll just copy it from here only. Okay. Add a space in that, and the path will be let's keep it the same. So this and let's commit this. Okay, now I'll trigger this workflow again, and okay, let me add one more ls here to just show you. Okay, now I'll just run the workflow. So now we have two jobs here. Let's go and build and see what is happening there. Uploading is done. Okay. Okay. Now we'll have the deployment step. Okay. So okay, artifact download has finished successfully, and now we'll see our folder structure. So we have our web app here. Inside the web app, we have everything that was there in the artifact. So now what we will do, we'll just deploy it. So let me go to my workflow again. We'll just edit it, remove the ls part. We don't need it. Now what we need is that, okay, let's write down everything. The cd part, what we have done, we have downloaded the artifact. Now the second step is that, okay, now this artifact is completely deployable. So we'll just deploy to app service. Next step, what we need, we'll add a delay, let's say of 10 seconds, just make sure that our web app is up. Let's do this step and see what happens. Okay, so I'll just name it. Okay, let's see we have pre-created tasks for this or not. Let's say app service. Okay, we have predictions. Okay, let's see what it has. So what are the parameters that we will be passing is platform number, not this one is. Let's search for web app. Okay, what are the parameters here? Okay, so publish profile, slot name, app name, packages. Okay, we can use this. So just paste this. Now our web app name. Let's say I'll the web app name as net slider. And publish profile it is required. And if you remember, we have already created our publish profile. So I'll just use it. In the secrets, I'll get the name of them. Let's copy the name from there only. Okay. Now, in the publish profile, I will be using. So same like what we have in Jinja, I'll just give our, this is a secret dot name of the variable. I'll just move this. Okay, the slot name is not required. I'll just remove this.
So team, while Suman is writing the
And
YAML,
package.
I just want
So
you to notice one thing, that whatever Suman is searching in the marketplace, right? Like he searched for an Azure web app. So that is because he knows that we are going to publish or deploy this in our Azure app service. So there are other options also from where you can later on import. Like instead of publishing this to an Azure app service, we can also host this on an Azure function, maybe a Logic app or in a Docker container. So based on that, we will just choose the YAML steps here from the marketplace and we will override it.
Thank you, Naman. Okay, now we need the package. So I'll just go to our run and let's see where our package is. Okay, so we have this here. Let it load. Still in the same directory. Okay, so I'll just use the same. So I'll just copy this path. So the commit is complete. I'll again just retrigger our workflow.
Yeah, I could not hear anyone.
Yeah, Rakesh, I think Suman is having bandwidth issues. Maybe I'll ask him to reshare. Yeah, he just said he will join back again.
And Naman, the CACD, at least the team is used to it for setting up for all our microservices, and they have a CACD in place for all the Node.js services. So we can quickly move on to the next topic, which is primarily on CACD driven for APIM, not for the service
App
itself.
service.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, sure. Suman, are you with us?
Yes, yes. Sorry, some issue with my internet, I guess. I'll just share my screen again.
Sure. Can you quickly show the team that after the deployment to the app service, what happens? Uh,
Uh,
yeah,
okay,
like
so let's
how do you
we'll
import from the app service to the APIM? We can start from there.
okay. So I'll just complete this pipeline pattern. Okay, so just check that out one second. Ta-da-da. Credential product correct. Publish product credential. Okay, I'll just check it once again. From my portal. I'll open my so I can get the publish profiles. I'll just open it. Just re-trigger it. Okay. So for the APM part, what we need is that so it can like everything, it can be done using three three ways we have to interact with our cloud. So this first one is the GUI or the web app, which our cloud provider provides. Second one is the CLI commands, and third one is the REST APIs. So for the importing of the API in, we will be using the CLI, and for the policy part, we will be using the REST APIs. So I'll show you the command.
So team, we have tried to use both the ways so that we can understand both the approaches. So if, also a quick mention, both the approaches, either we use the AZCLI or the REST API, we will have a similar kind of authentication. So it's only the commands that vary, but however, the authentication mode remains the same, which happens to be in our case, the system managed identity. That is the service principle.
Okay, so I'll just use, let's skip to that part only. So I have another workspace created in which I have written all the commands. So this is the repository. So if I go to this is the same application, and if I go to the workflows, I have import policy, import APIM part and create policy. So if I go to APIM, I have one PowerShell script here, which is accepting two arguments. One is the client secret, and one is the revision. So Naman will be explaining the revision part. Naman.
Yeah, yeah. So just give me a minute. Let me share my screen. We'll quickly jump to the APIM resource and we'll just try to understand how revisions are useful for us. Okay. Uh, So yeah, team. First of all, as you will see here, I think one thing which Suman missed also. So if you see, we have deployed that application in an Azure App Service. Okay, so this is how our Swagger will look like. So what we are essentially going to do is, when we come to our API portal and try to deploy, import an API, right? We can do it from various ways. Open API is the one which we are targeting as of now. There are other ways also. And what essentially we take from the open API is not the Swagger URL, but the Swagger JSON. Okay, so this is what we will be importing here for creating an API. Now, just to show what revisions can do for us. So team, what exactly happens is, let's say we have a set of APIs already deployed. As you see, I have say demo conference API already deployed here. Okay, and I also have something else deployed. Now, maybe our front end applications are already using these APIs which are deployed. So how revision plays a role here is I go ahead and click on add revision. Okay, and then with just a description, I am showing you the manual way of doing it. We will do it anyway via CI/CD. Okay. So once we create a revision, right, what essentially happens is if we go here and look for the revisions, or we can also notice it from here, I just created a revision. So the advantage of revision is that, do you see a change in the URL? I mean, see, this is our actual the current one, the current version. So all our production endpoints or all our other applications, they will all be using the initial revision of our API. Let's say we as developers, we update, we put check in some code and we add, let's say, two APIs, or maybe we delete two APIs, but we are again not very sure that whether they are exactly in a position wherein we can roll out to our production environments or the other developers using it. So in that case, what we do is we just create a revision here. And then once we click on that particular revision, right, from here, we can just choose that particular revision somewhere in the middle, and we can come here and test our APIs, and not just our APIs. We can perform essentially all the operations that we can do on an operation or API level. We can do that. Let's say I want to add some caching policies. I want to check some header, whatever. We can test and try out all of that in this current revision, which is essentially not in the production. So the best way is that we make all the changes in revision, and then later on what we do is we just click the latest revision. Let's say we are very sure if this is gonna work. We just make that as the current revision. Before I make it, I want you to notice this API, this URL. Okay. So when I make this one as the current, and I also post it to the logs, okay, you will notice that this becomes our current API. So all our requests are redirected to this URL, and this is the code which actually takes into action when we make this one as current. Now, another question could be that what are we going to do with these revisions then? So maybe in case we don't want to create a lot of confusion, we can take them offline. So for example, I will take an intermediary one and I will take it offline. So now no, it is no more publicly accessible. So what is worth noticing here is, though all of them are online and we can hit URLs and test them, only one of them is current, and which essentially has to be our production one, or the one which everybody is using. Okay, so now as a in the CI/CD approach, what we have done is we will show you how, instead of updating the existing revision, we will dynamically create a new revision and make sure that the changes which you are checking in and the pipeline which runs updates a new revision and does not disturb the current one, so that without any disturbance, or without creating any issues, we can first test it and later on manually come and change it. This is one way. In case we are very sure we do not want to use revisions, then that is also fine. We can just eliminate that part from our CI/CD pipeline, and then we can keep updating the same revisions. So that is also a way. Okay, so yeah, now Suman, you can go ahead and show the CI/CD for revisions. You are on mute if you are talking, Suman.
Yes, sorry. So I'll just share my screen again, and let's start with the API CI/CD. Let me know when my screen is visible. Hello.
Yeah, it is viewable.
Okay. So this is the same pipeline. In the same way, I have configured everything the same, and we have one delay after the deployment. We have one delay of 10 seconds just to make sure that everything is up. And if I open my script, I'll show you import APIM. So we are using the AZ login CLI command, and we are using the credential of our service principal. So this is our client ID and our client secret, which is coming from the environment variable, and our tenant ID. And also there is something like a revision parameter which Naman has explained, and we are using our tool, and this should be unique every time. So we are using a pipeline run ID as the type of the as the revision. So we get a track of everything that in which pipeline run we have created that revision. So I'll show you. If I go to my settings and in the secrets, I have service principal secret. So this is my client secret. Okay, and let's go to the workflow again, and I'll use the PowerShell. I want to run a PowerShell command, so I'll just search for PowerShell, and let's use this one. Okay, so this is the template and the script name. So we have to pass with the path also, I guess. So I'll just copy the path from our GitHub workspace. So I'll use one environment variable of GitHub action, GitHub workspace, and then I'll check what is my path once again. Inside .github workflows API. Okay, I'll just copy it, paste it here. And this argument accepts this script accepts two arguments. I'll pass that also. First one is the revisions. I'll pass my run ID here. So, GitHub dot run underscore ID. So this will pass my current run ID here, and also I want another secret, which is my key secret. Let's do it also. Secrets. What? We copy the name directly from there. Secrets. Okay. Explain. Main function uses this. Okay. Let's run it and see what happens. So I will go to my actions and this workflow. I will just okay, it's a manual. Why it is not coming? 1 second. Okay, I'll just enable the CI once. Okay, let's enable the CI and check it. That's failing. Let's see what is the reason. So in line number 97, we have some error. Okay, so I have not to close the double quotes. I'll just remove it also. Just commit. Okay, it has been triggered. Let's check this. Okay, let's disable this. It is uploading the artifact. So now it's downloading the artifact. Okay. Now this is deploying to my web app. Let's wait until this completes. Okay, so it is deployed. Now let's check in the portal. So this is the app service. Let's close this. And then deployment center. Oh, not here. It's activity log. We'll get that. Okay. Fetch this. Mm, okay, it's not coming here, I guess. Index. Okay, maybe I decline. No.
It is actually reflecting in the APIs, Suman. You can show there also.
Okay, 1 second. Just
This is the app service.
sorry. Where Naman, can you tell me?
You can go to the API management, right? You just triggered that CLI. You can go to API management resource and APIs.
Okay. Second activity log. Okay, so 2 minutes ago we have deployed the APIs. So what I am passing in the argument, I'll show you the workflows. Import API and script. I am logging using the app service principal and then setting the subscription, and then I am using this AZCLI command, which is AZ API import, and I'm passing the resource group, the service name, the path of the APIM, and the URL from which it will get the OpenAPI specs. So if I go to this URL, you will see that the complete JSON is available with the API
So
specification.
a question there.
Yes.
Will it only support JSON or it will also support YAML?
Like it can support, it will support YAML also. One second, I'll show you. If I create one more,
Yeah, I mean, it is up to us, Rakesh, what we import. So in the APIM resource, while importing, as I showed, the YAML is also supported.
Okay.
Yeah.
okay, and in the specification format, I am passing the OpenAPI JSON, and let's see what are the options you can use. Just help to get all the options. Okay. So from here we got all the argument that we need to be mentioned there for a successful importing of the OpenAPI specs. And inside the API revision, I am passing the revision, which is a variable from pipeline, the run ID. So now what I will do, we will just create the policy here. So Naman will explain the policy part. Naman, can
Yeah.
you?
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, just give me a minute. So yeah, team, before that, I think like a few things are there. So if you would have noticed in the PowerShell which someone was showing, there were few credentials which were not actually taken from the variable from the secrets. Like if you see tenant ID is not there and subscription ID is not there. Actually, we just showed you one, and ideally all the secrets should be all of these parameters should be taken from the secret itself. So yeah, like this is one quick mention. It is always good to do that. Okay, and another thing is now whatever as Suman said that when we come here and we are taking the the run ID as the revision number, right? So if you see this is where it reflects in the APIM resource. Whatever we do in the pipeline, this is the new revision which gets created. Okay, and now from here on I will just explain a few first basics of caching, and then Suman can show the CI/CD, then we will go ahead. Okay, so for a policy, right? See, we can always put a policy at the API level. Okay, like when I click on an API, I can directly come here and put the policy. So we have to be actually careful in the sense when we come here all APIs and we are putting the policies on an all operations scope, that means all our APIs can get those policies. Okay, so like that is usually we miss while creating. Otherwise, what we could do is, let's say if this is an operation, we have to put a policy at the operation level. So what we can do is, okay, it is already there. I'll just delete it. So how we can place a policy is we can just click on add policy. Okay, let me save the previous one. I'll remove this. Yeah. So as you see here, uh, just 1 minute. Yeah. So now we select an operation inside one of our APIs. Then we click on add policy. Yeah, so here we see a lot of policies like filter IP addresses, limit call rate, mock response. We will have a detailed look after some time, but for now, just let me add one of them. So that could be caching maybe. So yeah, cache responses. So what we do here is we can go here for a full version or a basic version. Let me do a basic one for now. So I will just add the response cache for maybe like yeah, 10,800 seconds. So what I just want to show here is, yeah, I think it is already applied. So you will see that there are two ways. One is the visual way of viewing the policy like this. Okay, the form based editor. Another one is the policy XML which we have. So if we now see the policies here can be put on, if you notice carefully, outbound policy as well, the backend policy as well, and this one is the inbound. So for now we are placing a policy on the incoming request. Okay, and there what we are doing is for a complete set of XML, right? This is our actual policy, and this is what we just immediately applied just now. Okay, so I just did it using the form based editor, and it is reflecting here, and you can see that the cache store, it is storing for 7,200 seconds. Okay, so now what we can do is like as a practice, we can come here for testing any of our APIs. We can put policies as and when needed. And how we will exploit this in CI/CDs, all we need is this XML. Once we are very sure that our policies are working by like, let's say I click here, now I've added a policy. I will go ahead and run this, like test this API. So let me test this. Maybe if I send, yeah, null is the response for this actually. So you can keep on sending, and maybe once we go to the trace, right, it will tell us that this information is from the cache. See, so from the trace, we are able to see, if we look at this cache lookup message, it says the cache lookup resulted in a hit. So the first time when we had called, it was actually a miss because that was the first time it stored the response in the cache. After that, it will always be a cache lookup. Okay, like it will always be a hit for the 7,200 seconds. After that, again, it will delete the cache and start doing things like that. Okay, so once we are very sure that we know how to put the policies and it is actually in a working stage, we can come here, copy this JSON. Okay, this is for the entire API. For the operation, we just pick this JSON and keep it with the operation name. So team, one more mention here is, if you see, all our endpoints have a unique operation name, right? So what we do for making our pipeline very generic is, we pass all the operation name as parameters, and operation name dot xml is what we store for our policies dot xml file. And all we do is, our power or our script, it takes those parameters, picks up these policy files by the operation name, and deploy it to that specific operation. Okay, so that someone will show in the CI/CD. So now you just know that this is the policy which we have to apply every time when this API gets deployed. If we do not do that, then even if I apply this and someone triggers the pipeline again, it will override and the policies will get deleted. So to avoid that condition, we ensure that our CI/CD also has the respective pipelines which we are doing manually here. So yeah, maybe now Suman can show how we are making use of this in the pipeline. And for now, we are just showing caching, but it can be any pipeline, any policy actually. We just need that XML.
Thank you, Naman. Okay, now I'll show how to apply that policy. So I'll share my screen again. Okay, so in workflow, I have created one folder in which we have two policies which are named by their operation: delete all blobs and upload files. And I have written also one Python script. What it does is that it accepts arguments which are resource group, service name, APIs, the type of the operation, if it is a get, put, or post, and the name of the operation. So we can pass multiple operation also. It will handle that. And what it will do, it will call one function which is put policy update, and we are passing all the arguments here, and it will run till the list of all the APIs. So this function, what it does is that it requires one token. So we are generating the token on the go in this Python script only, and we are passing the client ID and secret. So like we can parameterize this secret also, because this is not the correct way to use the secret. So we have to parameterize this secret also, and it is better to parameterize this, because the secrets may expire after sometime like 6 months or so. So what it will do, it will fetch the token and also the if match. So if match is required if we are updating the APM. So first time it is not required, but if we are updating, the if match is required. And to get the if match, we have created another function which will return the e tag of it, and we will replace this e tag here. And we are also reading the XML file with the same name as the operation. As you can see, get policy, we are using the same name as operation.xml, and then we are returning the content of the file. So this is the same, like if I show you one of the XML file. Uh, so for the delete block, it is the same what Naman has shown. It is same XML file, and which we are uploaded in the script. So I'll just add one more action in our workflow. Uh, let's code workflow developments. Let's add this. Okay. So we want to run the Python script. So I'll just check if we have something. Okay, so we have a Python here. Set up Python. I have just created a workflow, so I'll just copy paste it here only. What this action is will do is that it will set up a Python 3 environment, and then we are moving to that folder where our policy is. Then we are running the requirement.txt file, and in that Python command we are passing all the operations name. So let's say this is source group, service name is correct. Now let's pass the name arguments. Let's just copy the names. Delete all jobs and upload files. And pass this list. So installation, everything's great. Let's commit it and let's see. So I'll go to my action, open the current one. So uploading. Now deploy starting. Is deploying the web app. Then a delay of 10 seconds just to make sure this web app is up. Then we are applying we are importing the API. It's taking time. Okay. Now our Python script is running. Okay, so for the second one it is successful. Let's see for the first one what is. Check this one. Okay, let's check for the second parameter if it is applied or not. What and debug it later. So for the upload files, we'll check. If I go to this is actually I'll just refresh this one. .NET Swagger. Okay, so we'll change the revision. Okay, so the upload files. If we check the policies, okay. We'll check it once again.
You are on the wrong API source. It's the get upload files, not the post one.
Okay, 1 second. This is .NET Swagger only, right?
Yeah.
And we go to get, check the policy. Okay. Okay, we are getting the XML. This is 7200. So you there also it is 7200. So if I just did this one and change it to, let's say, and just commit it. CI is running. We'll check after this deployment is completed. Build is running. Okay. So we are importing the open API specs. It will take them some time, I guess. This one we are running the policy. So let's check if it is changed now. Okay, so in the .NET Swagger, I'll change the revision to the latest one. Okay, now let's check the policy. This one only, Naman, right? The upload files. I refresh it once again. Let's get okay. So now it is changed to 10800. So this was all from the CI/CD part, and here we have like successfully deployed one web app and imported APIM using the OpenAPI specs, and then added the policy.
Okay, maybe Suman, you can show one more thing. Do a code change and show if the number of APIs are varying. You can show that also. So
Uh,
you can delete an API and you can add an API, and then we can understand that with a single pipeline run, it all changes in the app service as well as in the API.
sure, no, sure. So I'll just uh, open the code in the controller. Let's remove these two, and I'll add say new CICD, and let's change this to some random number 1234, and let's return the let's commit this. Go to actions. Build is done. Let's deploy it. So we are deploying it to our web app. Deployment successful. A delay of 10 seconds. APIM import. Okay, so this is also done. Okay, now let's check that. I'll just refresh this page. Go to .NET Swagger. Move to early test field. This is 57. This one only. Okay, so as you can see, that new from CI is now there, and that both are the previous ones which we have deleted is not there in this revision. So this is our complete CI/CD. So any changes we make in the code will directly get reflected in the APIM after the action is the workflow executes. So I think that's all from the CI/CD part of the APM deployment. Naman, can you take it from here?
Yeah, maybe team, if everybody is fine, we can just have a 10-minute break. And also, if there are any questions, you can please ask us regarding like whatever we have covered.
Naman, so if we make a change in the existing API, like if we change some parameters or something, and then we make a build, so will that be a new revision or it will be updated in the current itself?
Yeah, so it depends on the pipeline, Pranav. And in our pipeline currently, we are adding a new revision so that it doesn't change the existing ones. But again, if we do not pass the revision parameter right, it will update the existing one. So it is up to us.
Okay.
So, yeah, Suman, you can show the GitHub command which we are doing. Uh,
The okay, I'll
where
show.
we are just passing the revision parameter.
Yes, one second. So this is where we are passing the current revision. So if we like remove this parameter from where it will deploy to the live API revision, which is currently in production.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And any other questions, team?
Yeah, Naman, one more doubt. So you mentioned about policies to be set for an API, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to, for each API, are we going to have a separate policy file, or in one file itself we can mention all the policies? I remember you sharing that script.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, thanks for asking that, Pranav. So, like, what happens? I'll just share my screen. Okay. So if you see here, uh, in for the hierarchy goes like inside a product. However, it is separate, but still inside a product we have APIs. Inside APIs we have operations. Now, what we have currently shown is, let's say Suman was applying a policy on this get upload files, right? So for this, it will have an XML, for example, okay? But if I apply for an all operations, the XML becomes different, okay? And this, as and when we pass the XML for all operations, like this XML, if we apply some policy and pass it in our pipeline, Azure CLI, it will apply the policy to all all the operations. So instead, we can apply to an operation level. Each operation, if you see, will have a different policy XML. Either we can have a generic one for all operations, which is not recommended, or we can have for any one. Okay, if like in some cases we need all operations one XML. For example, if we have to put authorization on all the APIs, like some header or something.
Okay, so
So
mentioned in operation level, right? So suppose it is a GET request, and
mhm,
we have kept a caching of 7,200. But
okay.
there is one GET API which needs to be called like a real-time API, and we don't need a cache for that. So for that, do we need to manually change, or can we explicitly mention it in the XML?
No, we see, unless you do not have any policy on your pipeline on your operation, no need of any XML. So we explicitly use the policy XML for this one because we wanted to apply a policy. Otherwise, no XML needed. The API will run as like normal. No policies on that.
No, the question was there were 10 GET operations, out of which
Okay.
9 needs the policies, one doesn't really need any policy. I mean, there is no caching required.
Yeah.
So
So in
yeah,
in that case, we will need to have 9 XMLs, and the one which is not needed, we will not associate that. So yeah, it has to be like that.
okay, okay,
Yeah, because they are individual policies specific to the operation.
okay.
Yeah. Thanks, Pranav. Any other question, team? Okay, so
Then we will take a 10 minutes break. We will rejoin by 4:15.
yeah, sure, Rakesh. Thanks. Uh,
Thank you.
we'll join back. Hi team. Am I audible?
Yeah, man, you are.
Yeah. Rakesh, should we wait for a few people more? I think they have dropped off.
Yeah, just give them a couple of minutes and then we'll start.
Yeah, sure. Thanks.
I mean, we'll get started. Let the team join.
Okay, sure. Thanks, Rakesh. So, uh, team, please let me know when my screen is visible.
It is.
Okay, thanks. So now actually after the CI/CD is done, right, we will just take a deeper look in the policies, okay? Because that is actually pretty much important. Uh, we can do a lot of manipulations at the API level because normally, right, those policies, if Azure doesn't provide us, it will be difficult in terms of the developers have to intervene and they have to write those policies in their code, and you have to tackle such problems in the via the code. So we'll go one by one. First, we'll see the caching. Okay, maybe a bit detail. So what happens is, see, the caching or any other policy. First of all, we can apply again at the either at the API level or at the operation level. Okay. Now, one thing here to understand, team, is, let's say if I go to a product, okay, we will let's say for example see some product already there. Product is nothing but a logical collection of APIs, in the sense we can add some APIs to the to a product, and we can also add the same API to multiple products. Like for example, just to show you, let's say I go to a product. The product name is starter here. This comes by default with an API instance, and if I go to APIs, okay, maybe nothing is there. Uh, I will come here and add an API. Okay, uh, just to show. Okay, now I go to the unlimited one, and here also I go to APIs, and maybe I can add the same API, but along with that I can add a few extra ones. So for now, we just need to know that uh, a product is a logical collection of APIs, and where it actually helps us is in the developer portal. Okay, that we will understand in a while. For now, let us just come back to our policies. Why I showed the product is, if you go to a product, we also have a policy section here, and what it tells us is the policies which we apply here, like the rate limit, quota, whatever. These policies apply only to that specific API, like all the operations of that particular API inside the product. Okay. And however, what we apply here inside our APIs, this is different from the policies there. So that the product's APIs will have the scope only inside the product and not here. Okay. So now we will come here. We will go to get, and we will just try to apply a policy. Maybe I'll again try with the caching one itself. So if you see here, like the last time I just took a basic one. This time let me take the full form. Okay, so maybe if I okay, let me say okay. Yeah. Now I anyway. Uh, if I go to the form based editor here for a full one, okay, so here there are some options. So see, the options are like, one is the vary by developer or value by developer groups. This corresponds to the developer portal, the developer groups. Okay, allow private response caching. Okay, this is an important option which we must know that what it means. So assume like these are some APIs. Now in get upload file APIs, we are passing some sort of an authorization header to validate whether the API is being called from the right source or not. As in the person who the source which is calling the API has the rights to call the API or not. Okay. Now, when we apply a caching policy to this particular operation, and this operation also takes the authorization token. So there are high chances that what happens is, let's say you are putting a caching of 10 minutes, and however your authorization token is varying every 2 minutes, 3 minutes like that. So in that case, what will happen is we can enable the allow private response caching. That means even the responses which are returned by the APIs who are having proper authorization mechanisms, it will store those responses also in the cache. So normally for confidential information, if the API is returning, we put some sort of an authorization token. So it is a debatable question whether we should cache those or not. Okay, so when we choose allow private response caching, in that case, it will actually cache the private responses as well. That means the ones which need authorization token in the response. Okay, this is one option. Must revalidate is again based on some token we can revalidate the cache. Okay, whether the cache is coming from the right source or not. Downstream caching type we usually it can be public or private. Caching type we usually choose internal. Okay, now apart from internal there is another mechanism. See, for caching we basically can have two types, external and internal. Internal means the cache is stored in the APIM. Okay, I'm sorry, my dog's barking. Okay, so the caching type, if in case it's an internal one, okay, then the cache is stored inside the APIM. However, if we come here and we will find an external, yeah. So when we look at the external cache here, okay, here we can add multiple cache sources, for example Azure, Redis, and for those, right, whatever we are adding, we can just add the connection string. So what basically happens is there is probably a better SLA and also a huge volume which we can do, because which we can store the cache. Okay, but however Redis cache is a bit costly, so that we need to keep in mind. But any external cache we can use by just providing the connection string here. So for now we will just go with the internal APIM cache. Okay. Uh, yeah, just apply it on this. Then we go to the form-based editor and see what else options we have. Yeah. Now, one more very important thing is vary by query or vary by header. So what happens is, assume we are like there is little bit of developers in intervention as well. Okay, so let's say we are writing an API. Let's say if this is my API, for example. So what I will do, I will take a header as a developer. I will also take a header parameter for the cache. So let's say a good use case would be, so let's say my API reads data from the database, okay, and renders it. This is the job of my API. for example, like it just returns the response. If I as a developer decide that I will take a header, like if it is taking some parameter as input, right? Let us say that if my header is same for the next 10 minutes or next 20 minutes, then we will return the same response. Okay. So in that case, what we must note here is that the decision maker of our cache, like whether we have to return from the cache or we do not have to return from the cache, is actually the header parameter. So if my API is taking two headers, okay, then for one of the headers I will put a vary by, for one of the headers which I want my cache to vary, I'll put a vary by header option. Okay, and anyway I am choosing the time. So for this much time, this is usually the case with APIs rendering quite a static data, which is not likely to change for a month or a 6-month period or something like that. So in those cases, we will just take an header or a query parameter, any of us, we will specify that parameter, okay, here, and then for this much time, if the same query parameter or if the same string header parameter is passed, the information will be returned from the cache and it will not go to our backend service. Okay, so like this is about caching. Okay, caching as a policy, and yeah, we have seen it. However, we will see it again. So let me just put. Just want to show that traces, okay, so that we understand how we can diagnose the cache. Like we actually come to know whether the data is coming from cache or not. Okay, so now that I apply a caching policy for 7,200 seconds, let me go to test. Okay, the first time when I test my API and go to traces, here I just see the response. Let me go to trace and see. Okay, we will have to go to yeah. So see, inside see we have to understand this. We have added the cache to the inbound section, so we have to check the inbound JSON wala trace. Okay, here if you see this, okay, cache lookup says it is using the internal cache, and the cache lookup also says that it resulted in a miss because the first time whatever response it returned, it actually stored in the cache. Okay, so it is saying that it was a cache miss. Next, let me hit that endpoint again. This time let us have a look at the trace. Yeah, so evidently it says cache lookup resulted in a hit. That means for the next 7,200 seconds, whatever calls we make, it will be a hit always. Okay. And there can be other like customized policies which we can write on top of this cache. Okay. So this was about a caching policy. Now there is another a popular industry use case wherein let's say two teams are working simultaneously, the front end team and the back end team, and there's a requirement wherein the back end team is not able to yet finish up the APIs, but the schema is ready. Okay, however the front end team does not want to wait and they want to consume the API. Okay, in that case what we go ahead and do is we click on add operation. Okay, now the developers in our let's say in our GitHub. Okay, if we just look at the GitHub, yeah, let's say if this is the controller. Okay, just 1 minute. Yeah, so let's say there has to be a different controller added in a .NET Core application and a new API is still being written, but we do not have the code here. So what we can do is we can take help of this feature called mock responses. Here what we will do is what we will just by an understanding we will put some name. Okay, it can be the same name also for our operation. See, this is the name for the operation, test mock. Okay, it will be a get. Okay, so we will say okay, this is a get URL and it can be like anything. Let's say testing mock. Okay, this is our API URL if, in the sense this. Okay, for our API. So if I go ahead and then maybe if I give some description or I don't give. Okay, and here I give a sample mock response. Okay, so I'll say that I just want a template, a API template which should return the response. I will just hard code the response which it has to give with the proper response code. So let me add a response 200 OK and add a representation of the response. In that case, what we will do here is we will type the type of response which we are planning to return, which our API is planning to return. That happens to be, let's say, application.json. Here I will just try to add a JSON. Okay, like my response will have two fields. Okay, one field will be name. Okay, the other field could be, sorry, age. Okay, now this is just a sample response which I am adding uh, with an assumption that my developers will be returning a similar response. Okay, so that the front end team can start consuming the APIs for faster development. And I just hit save. Okay, so I added a operation called test mock, and when I click on it and I go to test, let me see what happens. It says 404 not found. That is because there is no backend. If you click on this, right, if you go to the design section, you will notice that there is nothing configured in the backend or sorry, here. Yeah. So here, if you see, there is not much in the backend, but still it is giving us 404. That is because although we have customized, we have given a mock response, we have not added the mock response policy. Okay, so let us go ahead again and click on add policy. Here we'll find a template for mock responses. Okay, now what we need to understand here is when I was creating the policy, if you remember, I had chosen the type and the like the type and the response code. Okay, so if I again go to settings, okay, and let me just show you, maybe inside test I'll find it, or okay, maybe uh, okay. Anyway, when I was just like all I just want to convey is whenever I was placing the uh, creating the operation, I just gave a sample response with code 200. Now, when I want to apply a policy, a mock policy, basically, I will just have to choose that response from the list. So I just go to add policy, mock responses, and choose that response. And now let me go ahead once again and test our endpoint. So you see this mocking is enabled icon here. And if I go ahead and click on send, you see the same exact same response which I had configured. Okay, so like a very good use case, as I said, is it is for rapid development wherein one team does not wait for the another one. Just a simple definition is enough. The front end team can pass the JSON and do its work. Okay, so this is about the mock response. Okay, just a sample response. And later on, once it comes in our code, it will anyway get deployed via CI/CD. Okay, I hope this was clear, team.
Naman, a question over there.
Yeah.
A Get API might have more than one response code, right? For example, 200 is a positive response code.
Correct.
Assume if you have a criteria not found or bad request, how do you handle mocks for each one of them?
Okay, so like Rakesh, what actually happens is this entire response, right? This entire mock response is just as a sample, uh, because it does not have any backend, and the logic for a not found or a bad request is essentially it comes from the backend. So whatever response we choose as a mock response, right? It will always return that. Okay, and once the actual API is ready, it will start returning those responses, be it a bad request or something. because you see there is no backend code currently for this. So that's the reason it will not for now we can just give one mock so that it does not give a 404 at least.
Okay. So the reason why I was asking that is, can we have more than one mock response, so that in for certain requests it will return 200, for certain requests it will return appropriate other response codes. But I don't think that is possible.
Yeah, but however we can just quickly give it a try. But yeah, it's a good question. Okay, we'll just try test mock twice. Okay, I'll put responses. Okay, the tag is okay. Yeah, let me go with the responses here. Add a response. The response could be 200 in one case. Okay, with a representation of slash JSON. Sorry. Okay, and in that the sample would be just test, and inside that just column. Okay. Apart from that, we can add one more response. Let us go with any. I think 202 also is okay. We will again give a representation to it. I think it is possible, Rakesh, and thanks for bringing that up. This time. Okay, let me save the two responses. Let's see while applying the policy, can we add two mock responses or not? Can I go to add policy and try applying a mock response? I think it allows just one. Yeah, it allows any one, right? If I can either choose this or this. Yeah. So yeah, any other doubt, team? In mocking?
This entire mocking can be done using code base as well, right?
Yeah, we can do this using the code base also. Like the when we actually have a backend code for this, it will just override this. So it can be done. Okay. Then next, I think we can try with one more policy, and that is throttling limits. Okay, so again, yeah, throttling limit is a very useful feature, because what essentially happens is if we are, let's say our backend team is consuming some APIs which are really costly, like maybe there's a tool called diffbot or sprinkler, or if you see there are hundreds of tools, let's say Bing News. So the things which are costly, if we actually want to apply some policies on that in terms of limiting the call rate. Okay, so for that we can go to other policies and we can go to show snippets here. Okay, or I think I will just directly add it to controller mode request. Yeah, so here we can just give a simple limit call rate policy here, which will say that for the test mock twice API operation, the number of calls we want to restrict to 3, and the renewal period is 60 seconds. That means in a minute we cannot call more than 3 times this particular API. Now the counter key can be custom, can be API subscription, and can be IP address as well. So it is self-explanatory in terms of if I am putting something in terms of my IP, okay, if I'm allowing only a single IP or maybe multiple IPs to call my endpoints, then this endpoint for a specific IP address which I specify will allow only 3 calls per minute. And on a similar note, the API subscription which we are going to see now, okay. Now the increment condition, this is also quite useful in terms of, let us say, uh, now let's say Bing News is there. So whenever we are calling the Bing News APIs, and our APIs are parsing the Bing News and returning us back the information, the news, okay, there are chances that Bing News is essentially returning the same data, and we are planning not to call it again and again or something, okay. Or maybe if the Bing News APIs are failing, it is not a very good idea to consider that one call happened, okay, because ideally we did not give any response. So we should not consider that there are 3 calls. So we can put some conditions as if only when there is a successful response, then for 3 successful response per minute is the limit. So for now we will just put any request, okay. But I hope these 2 points are clear. Yeah, now let me just go ahead here, and there are actually 2 more things which I want to explain. For now we will just go ahead and test this API, whether we are able to call it more than thrice or not. So this happens to be my first call. It's a 202. This is my second call. It's a 202. This is my third call. This is my fourth call, and this is my fifth call. So you see that the API, the mocking, the throttling endpoint, the throttling policy does not work. Now, why it does not work is because we have enabled mocking. Now, if you look carefully here in the design section of your API, there are multiple policies applied to the same endpoint, same operation. Correct? We have the mock response, we have the rate limit. Now, I will just place the rate limit above the mock response and try it. Okay, so this basically what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to specify that rate limit takes higher priority than mock responses. Okay, so let me try this and see how it goes. Okay, so this is my first call, my second, my third. Yeah. So now you see that the limit of 3 was exceeded, and we started getting a 429. So I mean, is this clear, team? I mean, it's pretty straightforward. So in the trace also we can drill down and we can understand like what went wrong, and we can also have some custom responses. Like let's say if I want to tell our developers that okay, this was what the error, maybe 429 they are not able to understand. Maybe we can hear this message we can customize, I think. Okay, so let me go ahead again and see how we can customize the response. Yeah, I will just click on the original policies, and here I think there has to be a parameter. I'm not sure. There is a parameter which can tell us for the custom message that we want to return. I'll show you in some other policies. Okay? So with this, we have seen caching and we've seen mock responses. We have also seen the throttling limit. Okay. So now we will try with some authorization policies. One among them, which is very widely used, is the check header and access restriction policy. Okay, it comes under the access restriction policy. What I will do is I will choose an existing API. Let's say test mock. Okay, and check header, right? Yeah. So I will just delete the policy so that they don't cause trouble for us. Okay. Yeah, I go to add policy and I need to do check header, right? So what this essentially does is it based on the headers, it validates whether it has to return the response or not. Okay, so for this, for the access restriction policy, actually this is the complete list of policies which we can use. Okay, so here we go to access restriction and go for check HTTP header. Okay, now you will see, let's say, okay, let us not let us give the header a name. Okay, let's say it's a auth header. Okay, and I want to return a 400. That means a bad request when somebody does not pass the header while calling. So yeah, as I said, we can customize the message which we want to return. So here we can give a clear indication to our developers that uh, auth header was not passed. Okay, it could be anything. Okay, the message. So ignore case. Okay, I'll come to ignore case later. For now, let me just save it and let's see if our policy is applied or not. So can you see it says that one or more fields incorrect? That is because I had done two mistakes here. The first mistake is I am not supposed to put this policy tag outside the policies. Okay, it has to be always inside the inbound section or the outbound or the backend section. So this is my first flaw. Let me cut it and paste it inside the inbound section. The next important thing is when we are saying that our header has to have the name of auth, but we also have to specify the value. So here we will say that only when my header is QWERTY, when my auth header has a value of QWERTY, that is the only time when I should allow. Otherwise, I will return a 400. Now let me save this and see if it works. Okay. Okay, so I'll just paste it back right after this and save it. Okay. Now let me just go ahead and test my APIs. So while if we directly call the API, it will start giving us a bad request saying the same custom message which we passed there in the policy. Okay. Inside the trace again, if you drill down, you'll find a bit more details. Okay. Now let me do one thing. Let me pass the header which my API wants. Okay. My API wants a auth header with the value. Let me give a wrong value and see. It again says that it was either not passed or it failed.
हेलो बंधु. अच्छा, ये महालक्ष्मी सोसाइटी में ऑर्डर प्लेस करना था.
Yeah. So for the auth, I will now pass the correct value and let's see how it goes. Okay, it still says a 404. Okay, that is because I have let me check. Let me check what is okay. Maybe let me check the policy again if I have done the policy correctly. Okay, yeah. Check header is the policy. Header name is auth and value is QWERTY. Okay. I'm trying to test it once more. Okay. The header parameter pass auth and I will give. Okay. Maybe if I just choose this. Still says 404. Okay, I think it should be working. However, I will. There is one more use case which I wanted to cover. Another one is if I go to my design, right? Yeah. Inside this, while writing the policy, there is an option of ignore case. Okay. So what this ignore case will do is, let me see if everything is proper. Yeah. What this ignore case will do is, let's say if my value which I'm passing, if I make it q, okay. So if for now, what will happen is ignore case is true. That means even if my value is capital Q or small q, basically becomes case insensitive. But when I make this ignore case as false, okay, then it will become a case sensitive one. Okay, and here for check header, this is the value inside the base inside. Yeah, let me try one more time. Okay. So I will go to the header. I will pass API. Okay, yeah. And another one is I will pass. Okay, we will come down in the origin header was missing. Request was classified as non-con. And they are validated not. Slash testing. Okay, maybe it looks like there is some issue. In the interest of time, I'll not debug. But this is what we can do in terms of adding a check header policy. Okay. Uh, then the next one is the transformation policies. Before going to transformation policies, any questions here?
A small question there.
Yeah, Rakesh.
Can we write our own custom policies?
Yeah, I think we can write little bit, but there is not much of legacy actually there. I had figured out some documentations, okay, which
Share
allows
that
us.
across, so that should help me.
Yeah, sure. So what is there actually in those documentations is Microsoft just says that there can be some kind of customization done in terms of picking up a variable from our endpoint and passing considering it a bool value and write some conditional statements in our policies. Okay, so I will definitely be sharing across. It is there in the corpus, which I will share as a takeaway document. Okay, sorry. Now next is the transformation policies. So again, this is a very important use case. We will look for two policies here. So actually for that, what I have done is I have taken up API from Microsoft and I have deployed it here. Let me just show that process again. So in case we want to, because our APIs are not, very much good at the responses and all. So there is a document. I just have a JSON. This is a sample Microsoft API whose example I am taking here. Okay. Okay, maybe it doesn't work. Uh, I will try to import this. I will just add an API. Open API. Here, yeah, this is the JSON. Here, I will put whatever the name it is. Okay, let the API URL success. It will be test. Okay, URL suffix. Now, there are two things which we need to observe here from security standpoint. Uh, Let me have a look at one of the APIs. API operations, yeah. So get sessions is we have a list of get and post APIs here. Let me just go to one. Okay, so here, let me just test this and see what response we get. See, we get a 200 response code. Okay, understood. Now, the problem with this is, if we carefully notice, there is there can be some headers which we want to hide. Okay, for example, if I go to maybe another, like let's say I want to hide the pragma or the transfer encoding header. Okay, actually in some cases it does return us the uh, sorry, it does return us the application which on top of which our APIs are built, and that is definitely not safe. Yeah. So if you see this get speakers API, it is returning us ASP.NET version and X power by. So these things are definitely not something which we would like to expose it to as a part of the API response, because it makes easier for the attackers to attack knowing that what kind of application the API is built. So what we will go ahead and try is we will try to remove the headers. That means we are basically trying to transform the response. Okay. So for that, again, let me go back to design. I think get speakers was the API. Okay, we will again go ahead, go to add policy. Here we will go to, there is something called set headers. Yeah. Now, okay, I'm sorry, actually, I need to just duplicate this tab so that I can copy the headers. Okay. So what I'm trying to do is I am knowing that sorry. Yeah, what I'm trying to actually do is knowing that what kind of response I am getting and what kinds of headers I am expecting. I will in prior I will try to hide those headers. Okay. So how we can do this is, let me just test it one more time so that I can copy the headers from response. Yeah. So I will pick up this header from my response. Okay. And then here inside the set headers policy, right, I will paste this. Okay. Get copied. Yeah. And here inside the value, let us not give anything. So I can also append, I can override, I can skip, and I can delete. I'll just take an example of delete here. Let me pick up the second header. The second header is X powered by. I will add one more header, paste it here, try to delete it on my incoming response. Okay. Now why it says this is a very common error. So what we have to just do is the second time when we were choosing it automatically adds a response. Just close it off. Okay. So now let me go for test and try to test the API. So we still see these, right? This is because this is another point that we must understand is we are seeing this because we have to see where we are applying those policies. So inside get speakers, I am applying the policies on inbound processing, which is wrong, because this particular policy I should apply on outbound policy, right? Outbound processing. That is when I am returning the response. So what I will do is I will just copy these two, discard it from here. Maybe, yeah. Let it load. Yeah, I will go to outbound and paste these things here. Okay, 1 minute. Let me paste it after outbound, like inside outbound. Now let me see. because we whatever is coming, that is not a problem. Whatever the API is returning, that should be, that is actually where we are trying to hide or delete, right? Yeah. So if you see here, the both the .NET and the whatever it was, X powered, yeah, X powered by and XSPNet, these two headers we have successfully hidden, okay, or deleted it basically, because any kind of confidential information which is coming in our response, we can transform that. Okay. Now, like any questions here, team? There is a similar one. Like if we notice here. Uh, if this is our swagger, right, this is something which we do not want at least to come in the response, but we are already seeing it, like for our conference API, maybe it is the backend, the app service where it is deployed. So we can also drill down to this extent and try to hide these by applying some policies. Okay. So yeah, this is the next one. We will try to mask all the URLs which are confidential or sensitive. Okay, so for that, again, let me go to the design part. Uh, get speakers, add, add a policy. Okay, we can go for some sort of transformation for, yeah, mask URLs in content. Okay, so this is also like quite widely used. So maybe I'll use this, but however, this is actually, I doubt this is the write XML for that, but let me try. So the in case sometimes what happens is, if we click on the show snippets and click on something, and whatever XML tags come, right, they sometimes come wrong also. Like I'm not very sure if this is the correct. So the correct one we can always find from the Microsoft documentation. Like all these documentations I'll be sharing. Maybe I'll try here. Okay, we can verify also whether whatever it gave was correct or not. Okay, so mask URLs in content. Yeah, it is correct. Okay, so let me just go ahead here. I am again adding it to the inbound, and you will see what it exactly does. Okay, so it is not going to actually hide anything. You can see the policies here and not here. Okay, so actually it is not going to hide anything as such, but it is going to manipulate it according to how we want. Like if you click on send now, just see. Can you see? All the hrefs, it instead of writing the Azure function or the function or the app service name URL, it is actually giving us this, our APIM URL. Okay, something, see, this is exactly what it masked it with, so that it eliminates the backend content from there. So this is also a very useful and very wide used one. And apart from that, like there are many other policies. Okay, I think, yeah, let us cover only this much for now. And maybe if any specific request is there, then we can take that later. But yeah, if we go to design and go to policies, you can see we can pick all of it from the IP filter. This I'm planning to take in the end in case time permits. Okay, otherwise mock responses, set query or parameters. Course is also a popular one. Set usage quota by key. So what this one essentially does is, like let's say there are two different subscriptions, and with two different keys or authentications you are calling. So we can assign individual quota, as in this particular application or this particular front end application will call it 50 times per second per minute, and the other one with this particular authentication token will allow only 20 times, something like that. Then we have validate JWT. Inside other policies also there are so many. Okay. Yeah, authenticate with basic client certificate. Basic is just we add a header and a value and it compares that. Now caching, we can also have remove value from cache and things like that. Restrict caller IPs, we can just restrict some IPs in case we want. Maybe if we want to restrict an application access. Okay, and then we can also have log to event hub. This we can use for application insights purpose, wherein we want to see the metrics. Okay, like how is our application performing. Course is also a widely used one. Then yeah, sometimes also for legacy systems, in case our response is coming in JSON, sorry, in XML, then maybe we can directly here only by the as how I showed, right? We can perform this policy also. So it will, no matter whatever is the XML, it will parse and give it directly in JSON. So that also is helpful. Okay, and all these policies, just to mention, can be applied on backend services also. So like you see inbound here, outbound here, and backend here. So all three of them, wherever in this, like if you see here, inbound, backend, and outbound, we can apply accordingly. Okay. So with this, I think we are done with policies. And any questions, team, before going ahead?
Karthik, Pranav, team, any questions? No, you can proceed.
Sure, sure. Thanks, Rakesh. So the next thing which we will try to cover is the developer portal. Okay, and how we can apply some sort of an RBAC and manage the permissions and things like that in case we are exposing our APIs to some external source. Okay. So for that, like, let me do one thing. Let me first go ahead with a product and create a product. Okay, one more quick thing. Okay. Let's say there is an API. The API is maybe this one. Okay. So if this is the API, I think when we go to settings, yeah. See, one very important thing here is, let's say in any API, right? In any API, there is something called as a subscription key. Okay, the OCP API and subscription key. So if I say subscription required, then when we call the APIs from developer portal or any other place, right? Excuse me. So it will definitely require this header with with the subscription key. Okay. However, if we remove this, then it will allow us to like make it even more public and anybody can call it. Okay. But what essentially happens is, if there are other kinds of authentication, for example, Azure AD authentication, in the sense, now I have built an API, I published it to a developer portal, and I give 5 developers the access to my this particular API, .NET Swagger. Okay, then in that case, the OCP APIM subscription key will by default be there because they already have the permission to the developer portal. So that RBAC is by default managed by the Azure AD. Okay. However, instead of giving the access to the developers, if the guests want to use use these APIs, then they will either need this subscription key or they will need to subscribe the APIs from the developer portal that we will see in a while. Okay, and important thing is, where do we get this subscription key in case we want to call it from Postman while testing? So click on subscriptions here and we will see a built-in all subscription key. Okay, just on 3 dots we can click on show or hide keys. They will show us the C5 key. Okay, let me see where it ends. C5 to C2. Let me go ahead and call any of the APIs and see if this key is same or not. So I will just go to this one. Okay, I will click on test. I will click on send. So here we have to see the token. Yeah, if we click here, can we see C5 and that C2? The same token which we are having in the subscriptions is passed here. Okay. Now there can be multiple subscriptions also, and also we can dynamically suspend the subscriptions and do a lot of things. For example, if you see here, we can, let's say our key is compromised. We are just following a basic authentication, and these primary and secondary keys are compromised. We can always come here and regenerate them. Okay, we can activate this particular subscription, like we'll see in a while. Otherwise, we can suspend it, reject it, cancel. Those options are always there. Why we have two subscription like in almost all Azure resources is because if one of them is being used, what we can do is we can just replace it with the second one, and then we can rekey the first one. So like at least one should be in use always. The other one we can rekey and flip dynamically. So some like that sort of practices we can adapt. It is always better. There are also Azure CLI commands and REST APIs for rekeying the Azure resource keys. Okay, that also maybe I'll share in the corpus. So what as a good practice we can do is these APIM keys or any other, let's say your app service keys, we can run periodic Azure functions or periodic cron jobs and rekey them and place it in the right location where the resources are picking it up from. So in that case, right, even if it is compromised, if we are rotating it every week or something, so that window of threat reduces. Okay, and then the whoever has the keys could not do a lot. He will not have much time to do because we can periodically rekey and place it. Placing it in the right place is very much important because usually we can adapt app configuration and pick the keys. That way it will help us to place the keys there itself, so that if we are rekeying here, we get the key, we place it back to the app configuration, so that in the production nothing is harmed. Okay, then yeah, now let us talk about the APIs. So let's say I create a product. Okay, I'll create a product. There are already some products. Let me go ahead and create one more. Okay, this is my sample product. Okay, and for now I just write let me remove require subscription also. Okay, I'm not even publishing it, I'm not adding any APIs. Let me just create one. Okay, so now this is our product. Okay, let me go ahead to the developer portal. So from where we'll access it is from the portal overview. There are essentially like the older version of developer portal was there, which is the deprecated one, and the newer one. I have both of them opened. The first thing which we have to do the next time, like when it is afresh, is we have to publish it. Okay. For now, I have it open. I think I'll just refresh the open versions. This is the legacy developer portal. This one is the new developer portal. I'll just refresh both of them, and I'm just logged in with a user. Let me not do that. Let me pick this up and log in as guest to show you like how a guest views this developer portal. Okay. So yeah, just 1 minute. I'm sorry. So for now, we can just assume that this is a guest user who is trying to access the APIs published on the developer portal, or the guest user is see, this is an API which is there because we have not allowed the subscription, like we have not chosen allow subscription. So that is why we are able to see the APIs. However, the same APIs I think we should not be able to see inside products because we have not published it. Let us see what products we see and what product we do. Yeah. So if you see here, okay. Yeah, if we see in our products, we have 3 products. Okay, but for a guest user who's not signed in, only these 2 public products are available. The third one, sample product, isn't available. Okay, another reason is because we have not published it. The first and foremost thing is let us publish it. Okay, now as a guest I will try to see. As a guest we still cannot see, right? However, uh, everything which we are doing here, right? If I log in here as an admin, I will be able to see. Okay, this is one mention. And next, now that we have added, we have created a product, let us add some APIs inside that. Okay, so if we are following a microservices architecture, then maybe out of 5, only 2 we want to expose in the developer portal, we can do that. Or different teams are working and only one we want to expose to the client, we can do that. Now see, each time I add an API, right, it comes by default with a subscription. Okay, like if that we'll see in some time. So now that we have published up API in our product, let me see if that API is if the product is visible or the API is visible. Okay, none of them are visible. Once we add the APIs here, right, we have to try with few things. Okay, like whom all are we giving permission to this product? Okay, for now, if you see, the display name is .NET Swagger. In the access control, only the administrator is having the access to this particular product. Okay, now let me go to access control. Here there are like by default there are 3 groups. Azure AD groups can also come in. Okay, I will give the guest, okay, the permission to view this product, and let me do that and see. Think he should be able to view it. Even if he doesn't, then we will have to add a subscription. So yeah, he doesn't. That is because even if you publish a API in a product and give the guest an access to it, he will still be not able to see because the subscription is not added. Okay, so I will go to 1 minute. I will go to settings here and I will click here on require subscription. Okay, this is the setting which will now like help the guest users to see. Let me click on save. And I believe now we should be able to see as a guest. So yeah, we can see this right now being a guest also, because we have the permission, we can see this. Now let me click and see what else can we do with this. As a guest, we need to subscribe. Okay, that is where the like this is how we can actually keep track of who is subscribing to our APIs. I will also do all of this with the user and show. For now, let us be in the guest environment and do it. Okay, now if I subscribe, I am directly able to subscribe. I think, yeah, let me just sign in with, yeah, I think it's user. Let me just try. Yeah. So, yeah, wait. Now the problem here is that when as soon as I become a user, a logged in user, I am not able to see this. Okay, and this is because we will go back and check in the portal. This is our product, right? Before the product, let us go inside the developer portal section and check for users. You would have noticed I just logged in with this email ID. Okay, and which group do I belong to? So if a developer or a person is belonging to a developers group, okay, then if we want them to access the API, the API inside the product, sorry, the API inside the product should be given the access to the guest, sorry, the developer user group. So see, because this email ID, this particular user, Naman786 Sinha, this person, it belongs to the developer group, and this API, this sample product API has access, has given access only to admins and guests. That's why he is not able to see. Now let me add the developer group also. Okay, and now let me just try. See, I am again able to see. Okay, but still, what I actually wanted to show is that even if I have access to a API, I'm directly going and subscribing this, right? So again, we can put another check and validation. See, when I okay, before that, let me show you the status in portal so that you understand it better. Let me go to subscriptions for this API. For now, we just see the admin primary and secondary key, right? Let me, as a user, as a user in the developer group, subscribe to this API and see what change it makes. See, now it says that, okay, maybe I created 2 subscriptions. I clicked it twice or something. So see, now these 2 subscriptions are here, right? That means I was able to subscribe, and for me to call these APIs, this is the token. Okay. Here, if we refresh, we will see the subscriptions. Can you see? I as a user took 2 subscriptions of the same API. Okay. Now there are multiple flaws in this. One thing is, even if I have access to a product, see, one product can have multiple APIs. Okay. The problem is, if I have access to a product, I can go ahead and subscribe all the APIs unnecessarily, which I don't need. This is first flaw. Second flaw is, if you see for the same API, okay, for the same .NET Swagger API, I am having two subscriptions. How I as a user can misuse this is, let's say if you make the subscription, if you make some access policies or some kind of policies you put on your product saying that this particular subscription key has a limit of 5 calls per second. Now I have 2 subscriptions. So in that case, what I will do, I get 5 into 2, 10 calls. So this is how a developer, a person can misuse. Okay. So, but let me show how we can control those things. Okay. Uh, the first thing is, let me go to settings. I think, yeah. Inside the settings, what is the, let me delete all the, first of all the subscriptions. Get confused. Now, also another point to be noted is, if I try to cancel the sorry, if I try to, just 1 minute. If I try to delete the subscription for now, right, it will not, it shouldn't allow me, I think. Wait. No, okay, yeah. Wait. One more point is, if I try to delete an API which is already subscribed, see, it will not allow me, I think. Okay, it is allowing. Maybe all the subscriptions are deleted or something. Okay, but in ideal case, the API should not allow. Yeah. So now how we can control the subscriptions for my single user is, we can go to settings for this API, and here we can click require subscription is already there. We can click on requires approval. Okay. Now when we do requires approval, we will see the change here. Let me refresh this page and see how many active subscriptions I have. Yeah, okay. None of the subscriptions are there. So what we will do is, we will again go back to products and try to subscribe this API and see what happens. Sample product. Okay. Before going there, let me see the subscriptions here. See this one. Okay, this one was cancelled when the previous one was deleted. That is why it deleted the API. Otherwise, it would not have done that. Let me delete this subscription also. Anyway, it is cancelled. See, now no subscribers. I will try to subscribe. Like this is a user trying to subscribe. Confirm. Can you see the difference now? You did not get your access keys and all, because you have there is a request being sent to the admin. Okay, and he has to approve for you to subscribe the APIs. Let me go back here, refresh and see if I as an admin got any request. Yes, I can also filter by pending approval here. that this is the person requesting and he has submitted the request, I can activate the subscription or reject the subscription, cancel it, suspend it, whatever. Let me activate the subscription. Okay, I'll just put some message. Okay, and okay, I'm sorry. Okay, now that when I approve it, right, and I go to all, the request I think goes away and the subscription comes in. So now I have the subscription key. Now as a user, let me again refresh and see if I got the subscription keys for me. Yes, I do get them. Okay, so in this way, like, right, we can have different roles and we can perform some sort of, you know, RBAC permutations and combinations on whom to give what access and whom not to give access. Okay, so let me see what else am I missing on this. Okay, subscriptions, as we know, like we can just suspend and do those kind of things. We can also manually come here and add the subscribers. Okay, we can just search for users. Now the thing is, right, how I added myself as a user is because if normally if you people try to log in with your accounts here, they will not allow, like here for signing, it will not allow. You should be there in the in the product. So for that, what I do is I come here as users and I add a new user. Okay, so in case like somebody, you like the team wants to just give a demo to the clients that hey, this is how we've published it and you can have a look. So for them as a user, like for dynamic access, we will just enter the first name, last name, his email ID will be generated automatically once you write the email, just a password for him, and you can just create a user ID password and give it to him. So that particular team can log in with those credentials and have a look. Okay, so this is how we can create users. Okay, and we can make changes in the product. Again, we can add multiple APIs also inside the same product. And as and when I add the APIs, they should be visible. Okay, like let me go to the sample product, add a new API, demo conference. Okay, so yeah, now let me just try to refresh and okay, actually I should go on products. Yeah, let me see if the other one is visible. So now in this particular product, we have two APIs, demo conference and .NET Swagger, and one subscription we already have. If you want subscription for the next one, we can go ahead and add subscription. Okay. So this is, I think, all about the subscriptions and developer portal. Let me see if I missed anything. Yeah. Okay. There is one more thing. So as I told earlier, if we go to the policy section here, right, and apply a policy, then okay. Before that, let me try to play around with the product here. Okay, like maybe I'll try to call some APIs as a developer from here and see. Let me just try out with, yeah, maybe test mock. I don't know. Okay. Yeah, let me try it with test mock. So if you see, got refreshed. Yeah. So for the test mock, you see, right, because I have Azure AD permissions, my subscription key 3A1 is already there, as I had told earlier. If I just send the request, it still says a bad request because, okay, I think this is for the API, for a different API. Let me try this one. Okay. So yeah, here let me try test mock twice and we see the response. So even if it requires a subscription or something, we actually don't need these subscription keys, okay, because it comes by Azure AD itself. Okay, we'll see 202 accepted. So yeah, this is like one thing. Okay, and the next thing is uh, yeah, policies at the product scope. So like this is another concept which we can apply. So see, if our APIM is having multiple APIs, okay, but out of two, we are adding just one API to our product, okay, then at the product, inside the product, at the APIM level, just give me a minute. Yeah. So at the API level, right, we can also put some policies. Like if I click on policies here, okay. So here I can put some policy on the inbound thing and things like that. Like maybe let me put one mock response uh, or anything. Let me try to limit it. Maybe that would be better. Limit call rate. Two calls in 60 seconds. Okay, if I apply this to the this, okay, now this policy is applied. Let me go ahead and try. Okay, let me try this. First time it gives a 202. Second time also it gives a 202. The third time it starts giving a 429. So this means that whatever policies we are applying, right, it is at the API scope. Okay. Oh, sorry, at inside the product at the API scope. So like this is also a concept which can help us basically customize policies for two different users. Okay, in the sense, like let's say tomorrow I get two clients for an organization. Okay, and for both of them I am trying to expose the same API. So for I can create two products, and at the product level, right, I can drill down and make custom policies for them. So if somebody is trying to use it a lot, maybe we'll have to give him that much flexibility. Somebody is trying to use it less, we will give them less. Okay, and let me see if I'm missing on anything. I think most of the things are done. Let me see if I've missed any option. Yeah. So yeah, one more thing is there, as I had told earlier, that in case the same developer, okay, if the same developer is trying to subscribe the API twice, right? Then in that case also we have a workaround for that. So what we can do is, let me delete the subscription first and show me how he will not be able to subscribe anything twice. Okay, let me go to the subscription. Let me cancel this subscription. Now I don't see any subscriptions. I come here to the subscriptions. It is cancelled. Okay. Let me delete the subscription. Now this particular user does not have any subscription to the .NET Swagger API. Okay. Now let me try to see uh, require sub C. What is worth noticing is the require subscription option inside the settings is already enabled, correct? Now I have also done requires approval. That is also fine. Let me add a limit of 1 for a particular user. Okay, like it basically applies to all users. Let me click on save and see what difference it makes. Earlier we saw that when I clicked it twice, 2 subscriptions I got, basically 2 subscription keys. This time let me click on subscribe. Okay, choose the sample product, obviously. Click on confirm. Yeah, there is a request. Let me go to the subscriptions as an admin, approve the request, activate subscription. Okay, now once this much is done, right, I come here and refresh and I get 1 subscription. Okay, Yeah. Now let me try to subscribe the same API again and see what happens this time. Let me go to the sample product. Uh, yeah. So the option itself elopes. You don't get any option to subscribe anymore because of the limit that we have put here. Maybe if I make it to 2, the person starts seeing it again, the user, because he can still have one more API which he can subscribe, he or she can subscribe. Yeah, so we see this. Now after we subscribe to this, the third time it will again go away. Okay. So yeah, I think this is pretty much it. One thing is also there is we can customize the developer portal according to the team, like according to whoever is trying to access. Maybe as a user, I can do that. Okay, let me go to home. Okay, we get some custom options. Okay, 1 minute. I think as an admin we can customize. Okay, there we get some options wherein we can change these things, and we can change the basically the entire look and feel of the developer portal. That itself is a very broad subject, so let us not go in that. But yeah, like this is pretty much about the products. So team, any questions on products and subscriptions and the RBAC kind of stuff, whatever I explained?
I mean, a question.
Yeah, Rakesh.
Um, we are talking about policy. When we are talking about policy, the policy can be configured at an endpoint level or at a product level.
Yes.
Uh, so earlier today in the call, Pranav have requested if there are 10 APIs, 9 need to have the same policy and one should have a different policy.
Yeah.
So now if I create API which have the restriction and
Hmm.
I create another product adding only one endpoint from the existing 10 and configure a different policy, will that be applied?
But before that, Rakesh, we have to understand when we add the product, right? We cannot add individual operations from the API. We will apply. We will add an entire API which will have all the operations, right? So like if there are 10 APIs, 10 operations inside the API, it cannot be the case that we just add 9 out of 10. All the 10 will anyway come because we are importing an entire API in the product. The flexibility of operation is not there.
Okay. Okay. But if there is a policy which is applied with the caching for a API,
Mhm.
for an endpoint as well as for the product, which will take precedence?
If we are accessing from the developer portal, the product one will take precedence.
No, no,
Uh,
I'm talking about as a API consumer. I'm consuming the API
mhm.
where I subscribe to a product and then I'm calling it. Now, let's take cache control. At a
Okay.
product level, we have 3,000. At a endpoint level, we have 2,000.
Hmm.
When I consume it, what will be the cache policy which will be applied?
Well, in that case, how we can distinguish is distinguish the policies which are taking precedence is if you look at the APIs, right? Here also we use some kind of authentication like the OCP subscription key, and when we publish it in a product, we also have the subscription key. So based on what subscription key we are using, what authentication mechanism we are using, that particular policy will apply. Does that answer your question?
Okay, okay. Kind of. Let me test it and then get back if needed.
Yeah, yeah, sure, sure. We can work on that. Uh, any other question, team?
Team, is there any other question, clarification that we need?
Okay,
Okay,
Rakesh.
then, Naman, I think if there are questions, we will circle to you or an email. We'll get clarified.
Yeah, okay.
I think thank you. Thanks for this session and
Yeah, I
walking
mean,
us through the content.
yeah, there are few more things, Rakesh, which are left. Okay,
Yeah,
so now,
please go
like,
carry on with that.
yeah, so just the monitoring part is left. Okay, so but there is a a legitimate concern, Rakesh. So as you know, for the API, for the application insights and those kind of stuff, right? It's a bit costly affair. So we have not, and also the kind of APIs which we are using, we do not have much traffic to show a lot of data. So, however, we can show the team a glimpse of our client data. Okay, for one of the clients we had built that setup for monitoring, but maybe we will have to stop the recording if that is okay.
That is fine. Maybe in the initial conversation, when you're explaining, let us record, and then when you're showing the data, you can stop the recording.
Sure, sure. Okay, so let me just go ahead, share the screen one more time. Okay, so yeah, now let us just give me a minute. Yeah. So let's just explore the options inside monitoring. The first one happens to be analytics. So what essentially happens here is, see, there are some really good options here. When we can sort the analytics based on the timeline, the geography, as in the location where we are receiving the request. Okay, we see that we have received 38 requests, out of them 27 were successful and 3 failed, and maybe 6 other kind of. Also the amount of data which is being transferred. So why, team, why this data transfer is important is because usually the APIs, uh, as a good practice, we should always have sort of pagination in the APIs, not returning very heavy payloads, things like that. So just to optimize the APIs from the developers end, right? If we look at these statistics, that there is there's a lot of data being transferred in terms of MBs for a single request, then that is something of a concern, right? Like let's say 10 MB or 15 MB of data for a single API. So that is again something not a very good practice, which we can bring into notice of the developers by making use of the analytics. Okay, again, performance wise, we have response time. This also, this is something which we as the DevOps or developers are not doing. Microsoft itself is tracking this, and this is the data. We also see the cache hit and cache miss. Okay, this is whatever we've done till now, we had 2 maybe cache misses, 2 4 cache hits, and things like that. These are the sum of stats which we can see. Going ahead for API side, see, for each of the APIs which we deploy, like usually for microservices, we might have hundreds of APIs deployed. So there also we can filter things according to which is the best one in terms of performance and things like that. Okay. Unauthorized request. This is itself very critical, because what essentially we can do here is we can pick up the if in case, let's say, for a month we monitor and we see a lot of unauthorized requests, what we could do, in terms of Azure to leverage this functionality is we could start pushing in the data to Azure Sentinel and services like that, wherein they start detecting and constructing heat maps of from which region are we getting a lot of unauthorized requests. Okay, so this is how this particular feature is useful. Failed request, again, maybe not errors not being handled in the APIs and things like that. So this is an outcome of those parameters. The total request, the average response time corresponds to the performance, the data transfer again. So these are, and also from the API, we can go ahead with the operations level as well. So how this becomes really useful is, I mean, maybe I'm giving a bit broader picture, but what essentially happens is in terms of, when we do a microservices architecture, wherein a lot of APIs are accessing the same databases. Okay. So there we can, by looking at the frequent operations from a single API. Okay. Like maybe these operations are from one API and maybe some operations are from different API like this one. So what we can essentially try to figure out here is that which microservice of ours, or basically which operation or which API of ours is having a lot of load on the database, because they are being called very frequently, and which one are being called very less frequently. Okay. Now, like what it opens the scope is, if we are noticing that some of our operations are causing a lot of load on the database because they're being called a lot of time, in that case what we can do is we can start exploring solutions like caching or maybe throttling limits, so maybe to control the load on databases. Okay. So it's a full cycle thing which can open source for a lot of things. So this is one thing which we can leverage from Azure. This is the analytics, and as and when you have a lot of data, right, it obviously starts speaking a lot of stories. So based on that we can take calls. Okay. So like this is one analytics part. Okay. The next one is application insights. Okay. So for the application insights, what is worth understanding here is, let me go to an application insight resource. I don't know if I have one. Yeah, I have one. Okay. So what we will do here, what we can essentially do is, we can connect our Azure APIM service to an application insight. How we can do that is, all the APIs which are being deployed in the APIM resource, okay, like this particular resource, we can just give them an application insight instrumentation key, which we can get from here. Okay, this is the instrumentation key. This is the app insights resource. Let's say this APIM, all the APIs deployed in this APIM, we give them an instrumentation key, and we give them a connection string to connect to an application insight resource. So for us to monitor and make sure that the right data is going in the right resource, we will connect that application insight. We will give them the key of that application insight, which is associated with this one. So we can basically add an instance, like I will see two of them. I can add one of them as an instance. And then what essentially starts happening is, this application insights in turn is connected to a log analytics workspace, okay, which we can see from here. So when any API is called inside our APIM resource, its data goes and sits in the log analytics workspace, and application insight is just a window, just a medium from where we can pick the data and perform some queries where we can read the logs. And how we actually push the logs is, we just connect to that resource using the instrumentation key, and based on key value pairs, right, like maybe some tag and then some string, okay, or some log which can be unstructured or structured, we can start passing there as and when an API is called. So this could be, in terms of .NET, could be a design pattern. Once it is configured, everybody starts using it. All the logs we can associate with an application insights. We will see it for a client in some time, how it looks, and we can run the queries. Okay. So let me just go to logs. These logs, when we try to run the queries, right, these queries actually are part of the application insight resource itself. Like that is the place where we get the data from. Okay, I think we will not be able to see a lot of things here because there are actually tables, queries, and a lot of things. Maybe in some time I'll show it. Okay, next is alerts. Okay, so what we can do from alerts is, let us say we want to figure out that a particular API which API is having the maximum response time. Okay, or if we want to improve performance, and what we do is, we start checking that no, if an API is having a response time of more than 5 seconds, then it should fire an alert, and respective people should get the message or via push notifications in Azure, or via email, or via Teams webhooks or Slack webhooks, or also via mobile push notifications, push messages, okay, or SMS. So we can create some action groups, and we can basically what we can do is write a query which monitors that, then come to from the logs itself. If the query is there, right, we can click on create alert rule. These options are actually not there. Yeah, this one. We can create a new alert rule and say that run this query every 1 hour, and if at all the query succeeds, like whatever the condition is there, if it is true, right, then we can go ahead and create action groups. Okay. I think the action groups come under the application insights. Just a minute. So maybe inside the log analytics workspace. Okay, let me see. Let me see if I get it here. Okay, I don't know. I'm not able to find. So basically, what we can do is we write a query here. We execute it every now and then. If an alert is there, right, we can create an alert rule from here also and from there also. Okay. This alert rule, if you see, we give some condition here. Okay, like we run a particular. See, we have a lot of signal types. Okay, in our case, the signal time will be the running of that query. Okay, and yeah, let it come. Let's say capacity. Okay, if the capacity of your APIM goes beyond 90% or something, you want to know something. Okay, so what here we do is aggregation means it takes what is the granularity period, as in what kind, till what extent of the data it will take. Will it take the data of past 5 minutes from this graph, basically for the last 5 minutes or last 1 hour, last 12 hours, whatever. And this is the frequency of evaluation, means how many times will this query run. Okay, or whatever event you are triggering, you are finalizing here, whatever signal, for how frequently will it run and check. Once the condition is true, okay, like if I say that the average is going more than 90% and I click on done. So what I will do is, let me just try if I'm able to do it. Yeah, so in that case, what we can do is we can click an action group. Okay, now I can, yeah, I think something is already there. What we can do in action group is we can add people. Okay, so okay, let me not deploy it. We can add people and we can choose what kind of alerts are we going to fire them. In the sense, are we going to send them an email, are we going to send them a push notification, or anything of that sort. Okay, so how it like the flow is, write the queries. Okay, run them periodically, create an alert rule, and based on an alert rule, call a action group. Okay, and that action group will inform us that something is not happening properly in your APIM resource. Okay, now another really good feature of this application insight, like the monitoring part, is we have something called as a workbook. So what we do inside a workbook is, for now it is empty. Okay, let me show the workbook in a application insight resource. Can understand better. So if it comes to a workbook, right, we get some public templates from Azure. And let's say if I go to app performance index or something, the app decks. So this the team, this is just a collection of log queries which we are writing here. So let's say there is a business requirement wherein the business owners or the product owners, they want to know the performance of APIMs on a very, a very abstracted view of it, with just not attention to details, and just understanding how the overall yearly performance or the monthly performance is. What we can do is we can create a workbook. That workbook will have a collection of log queries, and we can there is no need to refresh actually the workbook. It automatically refresh the data if we keep the data from the analytics workspace. So each time you come and open the workbook, right, you will see a lot of collection of graphs and all charts which you have plotted like this. Okay, like how we are seeing these analytics logs, right? Similar kind of queries, like I think here also we can click on any and go back to the query. Like from here also we can go and see what query it is. So whatever collection of queries and reports we want to create, right, we can create from here and share this workbook using B2C to the customers, like whoever want to visualize that. Otherwise, there is another option. What we can do is, if this is our application insight resource, when we run a query, right, if you see here, there is an option to, let me just try with a sample query for failed operations. I'm not sure if it will work or not. But what we can do is here we can export the results of the query in Excel, or we can also create a sync between the application insights to Power BI or Tableau. So that way we can visualize all the data there. Maybe it is going into depth, but yeah, that is also an end use case. So basically all the APIM resource using these monitoring tools which we have, we can make it reach to the business owners by maybe having some analytics tools and making use of the application insight. Okay. There are some ready-made metrics also which can help us understand how our API is working. Okay. Some of them are deprecated also, but we can still like go ahead and try. So you see, we get some data. We can aggregate it based on the max or the minimum or whatever. For which particular API, we can also choose actually the API name here. Sure if that is there now, but that also can be there. Okay, we can like we can change the visualization if we want an area chart, or if we want a scatter chart, we can do such kind of stuff also here. And see, can you see from here also we have a new alert rule option. Just click on the alert rule and start creating an alert rule. If the condition fulfills, it will automatically send emails or push notifications, whichever medium we like. So we'll come to know that something is not right in the infra. Okay. So yeah, I mean, this is the basic for monitoring. Uh, there are a lot many things, but before that, let me just, I think Suman can share his screen and I can just explain some, infrastructure where there is a lot of data.
Yeah, sure, Naman.
Yeah. Rakesh, can we stop the recording?
Yes, please.
Thanks.
Is the recording stopped?
Uh, I think it's on. Maybe Shashank has to stop it. I'm not sure.
Yes, I'll just stop the recording. You can proceed with the other data.
Sure. Thanks, Shashank.
Okay.